accurate clock. That one's a minute slow, but never mind. I'm Steve Wayne, and I'm the chair of the Licensing and Appeals Committee. And welcome to the meeting of the Licensing Committee, dated the 19th of December 2024. So, just a bit of housekeeping to go through first up for the two gentlemen sat there. The details in relation to, there's no planned fire drill, you'll be pleased to hear, but it just explains everything. If I just explain it, it's just a case of retracing your steps and follow everybody else, and they'll be guiding you out. Go out that door, round to the right, and downstairs, and out into the car park. But we're not anticipating anything, so that's all right. Just to let you know, currently, the whole event is being videoed and filmed for the thousands of people that will want to watch it later on. If you don't want any details about your identity, if you just have a word with Lucy, who's moved from there to there, she can then remove any sort of trace of you by technological means. So that's that. So I'd just like to welcome one or two people. If I go round from Giles Dan, he's the Regeneration and Place Manager, and Mike Goldsworthy is the Estates and Facilities Manager. We've got Karen, who's the Financial Guru, and then we've got Steve Capes, who's the Director of Place and Economy, and we've got Grace Dowson, who's the Licensing Manager, and we've got Christy Lim, who's the Principal Solicitor, and then we've got Lucy, who keeps us all in order. But there'll be very few of those people that will be interacting with yourself. The ones will make themselves clear. So if we can just move on to the agenda, please. Could we take the apologies for absence, please?
Thank you, Chair. We've received apologies from Councillors Bond, Franks, Gretrix, Hobson, Linthwaite and Slack.
Thank you very much. Have you seen the minutes of the last meeting? Would anybody like to approve them as a true and accurate record of the last meeting? Councillor Bates approve it, and Councillor Dobbs will second that. All those in favour, please. And I think against, or you abstain? Yeah, well, they're carried anyway. I understand you weren't here, Helen, so that's fine. Would anybody like to declare any interests in relation to any of the business that we're transacting this evening? Nobody? That's good. So we'll move on to item 4, which is public participation. And apart from, I presume that both of you are going to be speaking in relation to an item that we're going to discuss shortly. There's no other public participation, so that's item 4 finished with. We'll move on to item 5, which is the exclusion of the public and the press. And as we'll see, we've not got any public or press apart from yourselves. But I do have to point out that this committee will consider excluding the public and press from the meeting in order to consider the exempt item, which we're going to discuss shortly at number 6. The reasons for this is the exemption is detailed below, set out in paragraphs 1, 2 and 3 of the Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. And that is, it may release information relating to any individual, information which is likely to reveal the identity of an individual, or information related to the financial or business affairs of an individual. So I think what we'll do is ask those people that aren't there to leave, and Lucy will switch off the camera. Sorry, yes. So I'll move that. Does anybody second that? Councillor Dobbs will second it. All those in favour of us going to closed session? That's unanimous. going to resume the agenda on item 7, which is the sitting out licences, Ashbourne Reborn proposals. And is that going to be produced by Mike Goldsworthy? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this report is covering revised proposals for sitting out licences. Members of this committee will recall voting in the summer of this year on revised arrangements for pavement licences following a change in government legislation. And you'll also recall that the history of pavement licences was to support businesses coming out of the COVID pandemic and the effect that had. Primarily food and drink businesses serving for sort of on-site consumption to food and drink to customers. At the same sort of time that the original pavement licensing regime came in, this authority took the view that we would try to mirror that where businesses had a frontage on district council land. Now, primarily, those businesses, just by the fact of the land that we own, most of those businesses were in Ashbourne Marketplace and Victoria Square, because that is the main area of land that we own where there are food and drink premises fronting the area of land. So at the time, we brought in arrangements to allow what we called sitting out licences, which were similar to pavement licences, but the difference being that they're not statutory licences. Pavement licences are governed by a government statute, and we are the authority that administer those, but they're on land owned by others, primarily highways land. Sitting out licences affect our own land, and as such, they are no different in their sort of legal status to any other licence or lease of district council land. So they're governed in a slightly different way, but the aim is that we can provide something similar to businesses, similar to the revised pavement licences. So that is the main sort of body of this report. And what we're doing is following on from the revision in the summer to terms for pavement licences, primarily with regard to the amount we're charging and how that is governed. And we're trying to, in effect, mirror those charges for sitting out licences. And in some cases, there may be businesses or owners of businesses that have some premises with payment licences and some premises with sitting out licences. So we wanted to make sure that the changes are comparable, and that is set out in the report. The other key issue here, of course, is that Ashbourne Marketplace and Victoria Square are subject to the Ashbourne Reborn scheme and the changes that will be coming as a result of that next year. So the sitting out licences really require review anyway, but now is a good time to do it because we can also take account of the changed use in effect, or the changes in the operation of Ashbourne Marketplace and Victoria Square. So the proposed fees for the new licences are set out in the report, primarily at Appendix 1. There's a few crossovers with other licences, and I think the problem with the use of the term licences, and mentioned their property licences, is that can get confused with licensing, which is Grace's area, which is trading licences and that sort of thing. There is one link in this, in that some of the premises on the marketplace are licensed premises in terms of pubs, etc. And we have got a clause in that ties the sitting out licence to the premises licence. So if they lost the premises licence for whatever reason, then the sitting out licence would also terminate. That is the only real link between the two. Just wanted to point that out to members. That's all I need to add to the report. I'm happy to answer any questions on the licences themselves, and Giles is happy to answer any questions on the Ashbourne Reborn, and particularly the proposals for bringing the current licences to an end. And he also has some information to add to the report. Thank you, Chair.
Giles, thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Just to add, we're in the process of trying to finalise the programme with the main contractor for Ashbourne Reborn on the Highways and Public Realm scheme. They're due to start on site in the end of January, so we may have a little bit of flexibility in terms of the marketplace on the date that's shown in recommendation 1 on page 73 of the paper. So at the moment it says 31st of January. What we'd like to do, just in case we do have a bit of flexibility, and it is a maybe, it's not a definite yet, but if we have a little bit of flexibility, we'd like to add the words after the 31st of the 1st 25, or a later date subject to the contractor's final programme. So if we've got a few extra weeks, we'll give businesses a few extra weeks, basically. Happy to take questions.
Councillor Bates.
Thank you, Chair. My question, the marketplace is a big area. Are the individual businesses restricted to a certain part of the marketplace? Because it could well do, they could spill out onto the whole of the marketplace. Somehow there's got to be a restriction there to the amount of tables each property is allowed.
I think I read that you're going to delineate it, but Mike or Giles.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So there will be an area. We've not put that the plan of the areas in the report because that's still under discussion, but there will be delineated areas for each sitting out licence, and they will be required to keep within those areas. And the other terms are set out in Appendix 1 in paragraph 3.4, but they will have to keep to the area that is included. That's included in the licence. Thank you.
Councillor Bates.
I think it's a unique situation, the marketplace. So is the need for another tier above the 5 seats? If you've got 10, 15, does it need another tier of charge?
Right.
Thank you, Chair. So I mean, I think this is where the Ashbourne Reborn proposals come into it, because the way in which the marketplace area is to be used in future is different to how it's been used in the past. So it will be a public, an area of public space where events will take place, and so the areas that will be included in the sitting out licences will be limited to allow that. And there's also restrictions where we can ask at reasonable notice, 7 days notice, in fact, to suspend use of the area for any 24 to 48 hour period. So for instance, to take a topical example, if there was some sort of Christmas event on at the current time, then maybe we would have given notice to clear that area to allow that event to set up and take place and take down afterwards. Thank you.
Councillor Buttle.
Oh, it's caught my eye that you described it as not really a licence. Why don't we call it an agreement? You know, like, why isn't it a pavement use agreement? And then we don't get it mixed up with licensing, because licensing is a different thing altogether.
Right.
From a legal point of view, better off calling it a licence, because an agreement could link it to a lease, and a lease then can give protected rights. So a licence is a defined term for property.
Any more questions on this? No? No? So, does it? Oh, Councillor Dobbs.
A quick one. It's really curiosity, but to what extent are the current people with pavement licences, viewing the fact that they have these tables and chairs will need to be demountable and removable from their area fairly regularly. Is that going well?
Sorry, Councillor Dobbs, did you say with pavement licences?
Sorry, the current situation, we've got a large number of picnic benches and things, and clearly what's proposed is radically different. Is there general acceptance, the fact that the new tables will be different?
I think it's fair to say there was a mixed response when we sat down with businesses. We had 5 of the 8 affected businesses there. I think some saw the bigger picture, as it were, in terms of what we're trying to achieve. Others were concerned about the scaling back of their current outdoor space. I think on balance, we got to a point where there was an understanding, but we needed to discuss it in more detail with them after the general principles of the policy are agreed. So that's what we've agreed to do.
Thank you. So no more questions. So would anybody like to move the actual recommendations with the slight amendment on number 1? I think it was number 1 that Giles mentioned about after the 31st of... if you just say that again.
Shall I read it again? So just after where we've got the 31st of the first 25, we would add, or a later date subject to the contractor's final programme.
Yeah, so with that minor amendment, would anybody like to move it? Councillor Butcher, you're moving it. Anybody seconding? Councillor Buttle will second. So we'll move to a vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. So, thank you. To move on to agenda number 8, which is Grace going to talk to us about the confirmation of unlicensed family entertainment centre permit fees. Thank you, Grace.
Licensing works with and issues several types of licence. The Licensing Act 2003 fees, which are the Licensing Act for pubs and clubs, are statutory and set by central government and are not included within the list of the council's fees, as the council has no flexibility over the fees charged. The gambling fees are set by central government as a maximum potential charge, and local authorities aim to ensure that the income from the fees are as near as possible equated to the costs of providing the service. The council can also set other discretionary fees, such as those for taxes, scrap metal and animal activity licences. The Gambling Act 2005 Statement of Principles was recently reviewed and approved by full council on the 28th of November of this year. On reviewing the gambling policy, it was noted that the council issued 4 unlicensed family entertainment centres permits, but that the £300 statutory fee had not been listed on the annual council fee list. The permit lasts for 10 years and there is no annual fee. The fee lists for 2024-25 and 2025-26 have been amended as attached at Appendix 1. The 4 premises involved have already paid their fees and there are no outstanding monies at this time. So the recommendation today is that the unlicensed family entertainment centre fees are approved and added to the council fee lists.
Pretty straightforward, I think, but any questions? If there are no questions, would anybody like to move it that we accept the one recommendation? Councillor Bates?
To move the recommendation, Chair. Thank you.
Any seconder? Councillor Froggatt? Got it right. So it's been moved, it's been seconded. All those in favour, please vote. That's moved unanimously. Thank you. We come on to the final item on the agenda, which, when I can find it, which is the review of the house-to-house street collection licensing policy, and Grace, you're going to talk to us about that as well.
I am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The District Council is the licensing authority for charitable street collections under Section 5 of the Police and Factories Act, Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1916, and the charitable house-to-house collections under the House-to-House Collections Act 1939. It's not a statutory requirement to have a formal policy for house-to-house and street collections, but it is considered good practice to do so. The current policy came into effect in July 2021, and it was recommended to be kept under review 3 yearly. A draft house-to-house and street collection policy was referred to the Licensing and Appeals Committee on the 26th of March 2024 for consideration prior to consultation. It was resolved at that meeting that consultation be carried out. Further updates were made to the draft policy relating to complaints, GDPR and modern payment methods, which were discussed at the meeting of the 26th of March. 2 additional sections were added to the policy prior to consultation, which covered complaints and financial control of charities. These and all the original amendments are highlighted in green. Consultation took place between the 12th of August 2024 and the 20th of September 2024. The draft policy was circulated to all existing house-to-house and street collection permit holders, town and parish councils, the police, trading standards, elected members and officers within this authority. 6 responses were received during the consultation period. 5 raised no comment. 1 raised 4 areas for consideration, and these are listed at point 110 of the report. These areas have been added to the draft house-to-house street collection policy and are highlighted in blue. It is recommended that the draft final house-to-house and street collection policy document in Appendix 1 be approved by the Licensing and Appeals Committee and be introduced with immediate effect.
Thank you very much. Questions? No? No? Well, thanks very much for your report. It was very interesting.
Thank you.
And does anybody want to move it? Councillor Dobbs?
Happy to move it, Chair.
And does that find a seconder? Councillor Butcher? So it's been moved and it's been seconded as the committee approves the final house-to-house and street collections policy 2024 as detailed as Appendix 1 in the agenda. All those in favour, please. That's unanimous and that motion is carried. And thank you very much for your attendance and have a marvellous Christmas.